All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Movember. My name is Srini Ramaswamy, and I am the founder of Men's Circle India. And I'm thrilled to welcome you on behalf of my entire team to the Movember webinars. For those of you who may not know the origin of Movember, this is an annual global movement which started in 2003 in Australia when two friends, Travis Garon and Luke Slattery, were having a beer and jokingly decided to bring back the mustache. The idea quickly evolved into a campaign of raising awareness and funds for men's health and well-being. Today, Movember's primary focus is on four key areas: prostate cancer, testicular cancer, mental health, and suicide prevention. It is about stopping men from dying too young and ensuring men everywhere live happier, healthier, and longer lives. We are proud to be part of that mission today. Here at Men's Circle India, our mission is to foster holistic health and well-being for men across all age groups and backgrounds. We are a for-profit organization dedicated to providing programs, solutions, consulting for individuals and corporations. We focus on full spectrum of well-being, be it mental, physical, emotional, social, spiritual, occupational, financial, relational, sexual, and purpose. This includes our signature listening circles held monthly in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, and Chennai. I will paste in the chat window the link to these circles. Please have a look, and if you're keen to join, please join in. To further our efforts in raising awareness and education about men's holistic health and well-being, we are hosting a series of 4 webinars this month. Today is the second session, which focuses on occupational and financial well-being, powered by our great partner, Randstad India. Thank you so much, Team Randstad India, for partnering with us on this. And it gives me esteemed pleasure to welcome our experts for today session, Vijay Sivaram and Mrin Agarwal. They will be deep diving into today's topic, sharing invaluable anecdotes, insights, and practical techniques. A huge welcome to both of you. But before we jump into the fireside chat, panel discussion rather, I'd like to welcome Vishy to say a few words and help us tee up with our discussion. A bit about Vishy. Vishy is a seasoned business and finance veteran with over 28 years of multi-industry experience as an MD and CEO of Randstad India, a role he took over in 2021 after joining in 2014. He drives sustainable growth through strategic, financial, and operational leadership. Vishy champions transformational initiatives focused on culture and productivity, implementing robust systems to enhance informed decision-making. He is deeply committed to DEI and promoting health and well-being within the organization. A chartered accountant and Six Sigma Black Belt, Vishy previously held key leadership roles at General Electric, Motorola, and TVS Group. A key fitness enthusiast, he enjoys running, yoga, cricket, and finding his escape by retreating to a wilderness. Thank you, Vishy, for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Srini, for the generous introduction, and very glad to meet Vijay, Mrin, and Ankita here. And for all those in the audience, welcome to Movember. And I must appreciate Srini for bringing this to life and this second edition for November. So hopefully all men would benefit from this. And I also want to thank the Randstad India Men's Forward BRG and also the Men's Circle India for creating this space for a conversation that both is timely and deeply human. The topic being occupational and financial well-being. You know that money has always been more than numbers on a payslip. To me, it's a mirror reflecting our values, reflecting our fears, and our sense of self. I'm sure some of you would have read Oscar Wilde when he said, "When I was young, I thought money was the most important thing in life. Now that I'm old, I know that it is." Uh, he wasn't glorifying money. He was reminding us that financial health shapes how we live, how we work, and how we relate it to others. So let me talk a little bit about the evolution of money and identity. Uh, Money has, I mean, the definition of money has evolved over time from a symbol of power to one of freedom, influence, and stability. Historically, men were cast as they were cast into the provider's role. Their self-worth was often tied to their net worth. But as I recently read in a BBC article on why money and power affect male self-esteem, that link between masculinity and money still runs deep. It was a reminder that while progress has been made, our social wiring still needs updating, especially if we want that financial inclusion and independence. At Randstad, our work monitor studies show the evolution of vivid influence, or the evolution, as I say it. Today's talent, particularly the Gen Z, we all know they value more than a paycheck. For them, 37% of Gen Z, better pay, flexible hours, work-life balance are the holy trinity of retention. Um, so financial and occupational well-being are not parallel tracks, so they are intertwined. And as we know, the financial anxiety or lack of purpose drains engagement faster than any market downturn. So the challenge before all of us is to move beyond salary and talk about something deeper. And I call this as money mindfulness. So let me deliberate on that a little bit. What is money mindfulness? For me, it is from moving from income to actually control. After decades of spending time in finance function, I have learned that the biggest return on investment anyone can get isn't from the stock market. It's from the behavioral finance. We need to shift our questions from how much do I earn to how much control do I have over what I earn. So that's money mindfulness for me. It's about taking charge. How do you do that? Through financial literacy, managing your debts, long-term planning. It's about understanding delayed gratification, the difference between impulse and intention. So when employees have a clear financial roadmap, they replace anxiety with agency. And if you have read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, he says financial independence is the ability to live from the income of your own personal resources. And that agency, that sense of control is the foundation for occupational well-being. So let's moving to the next topic, challenging stereotypes for true inclusion. Now, true inclusion is not just about representation, it's about reprogramming old scripts. The stoic male provider stereotype keeps men from admitting financial or emotional strain. The default female caregiver
around your throat, and the neck also stretches out about 10 times, slow and steady.
Sorry about Rishi.
Very important.
Vishy, I think you're on mute.
Oh, was I on mute all the while?
No, just like last couple of seconds. Yes.
Okay. All right. So Yeah, what I was saying was if we want real inclusion, we need to normalize shared caregiving and shared financial responsibility. And that starts when leaders model it. When a senior leader takes paternity leave or speaks about mental balance, it sends a signal. It's okay to be human at work. One of the leadership experts said vulnerability is not a weakness, it's the most accurate measure of courage. So, what are some of the men's mental health, concerns, and the way I put it is the inclusion is the cornerstone. We cannot talk about inclusion without addressing men's mental health. For too long, society has rewarded and punished openness. The silent conditioning means many men carry stress alone, whether it is emotional or financial. But silence is costly. It hurts teams, it erodes leadership authenticity, and it diminishes innovation. So that is one reason why we must create a culture where men use employee assistance programs, where male leaders speak openly about balance, and where mental fitness is seen not as a defect, but as a leadership skill. Anecdotally, one leader I know used to joke that his calendar was his biggest stressor until he started blocking 30 minutes a day just for relaxation. He said it was the best investment he ever made, not in his schedule, but in his sanity. So, as I conclude, I would say I use the term return on compassion, you know, and this is quite favorite because as a finance guy, I always use the term ROCE, and in finance, you all know return on capital employed. And that's something which I have lived and measured throughout my career. But as a CEO, I thought about how can I give a spin to the ROCE. And for me, it is return on compassion and empathy. And how do you measure it? And in Randstad, we measure it in many returns on investment, on performance. But we have also started speaking about ROCE from a compassion and empathy perspective. Compassion is what transforms policies into culture. It's what makes inclusion real. I love this phrase, love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. So as I end my keynote, I want to leave you all with a thought. When was the last time you checked your relationship, not just with your money, but with your mind? Because true wealth is not what sits in your account, it's what sits in peace in your heart. Thank you so much for this opportunity and enjoy the rest of the program. At this point in time, I want to hand it over to Rahul.
Thank you so much, Vishy. That was really inspiring. I know Rahul was going to join us. Unfortunately, he has been called away for a very, very crucial meeting. So I'm stepping in his place, and I hope to do justice to Rahul and to this conversation. So thank you once again, Vishy, for sharing those perspectives and insights. And indeed, what you brought out within Randstad, I think this conversation about financial and occupational well-being have reminded us that this is a topic that impacts everyone in the world of work, not just men, women, everybody, right? So across all genders, across all demographics. My name is Ankita Banerjee. My pronouns are she, her, and I lead ED&I for the APAC region in Randstad. I also have the very good fortune to be part of our India Business Resource Group for men's mental health, and of course, Randstad's Global Women's Inclusion Network. And interestingly, in both of these groups, we have often been asked about financial inclusion and striking a balance between work and aspirations beyond work. So what it truly means that there's a topic that intersects across genders, age, cultures, all traits, if you will. Vishy mentioned about Randstad's Work Monitor study of 2025, and I just want to reiterate that one point that he mentioned. Work-life balance of 83% is now the highest ranking factor for talent, tying in with job security, at 83%, and of course, surpassing pay at 82%. Interestingly, the gap is largest for Gen Z, where 74% people are prioritizing work-life balance over pay, and 70% prioritizing mental health support over pay. So both of these elements become very crucial. Now, what does this mean in terms of occupational and financial safety? It remains a key factors across generations, but more and more people are navigating through this through a very distinct lens. On that note, let me welcome our panelists today, Vijay and Mrin. Thank you so much for joining us. Vijay and Mrin, if I can have you with me, and if you can unmute yourself and hear me perfectly. And,
Yes.
others can hear you as well. So I'm going to dive right into our conversation today, Vijay and Mrin, and I have some questions ready for us. What I hope to do is, from this conversation today, what Vishy shared, what Vijay, you and Mrin and Srini shared, I want to have some, clear, actionable insights for our colleagues from this dialogue. So for our audience, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, but we'll of course have a Q&A session depending on how much time we have at the end of the conversation. All right, so we'll start right away. Mrin, I'm going to call on you. Mrin, my question for you is, how do you build a sustainable relationship with work and finances and your personal goals?
Thanks, Ankita. And thank you, Srini. Thank you, Vishwanath, for having me here, first of all. And, I think the first thing would be really to have some focus on your money. And I know Vishwanath said some really nice things, and I'm going to be using them in the conversation as well. But I think, one of the things that I see a lot, and from all the sessions that we do, is that most people save less than 10% of their take home. Right. So, while we can talk about, having a better financial life, and, of course, Vishwanath said correctly, right, that it becomes a necessity in life at the end of the day. And today, honestly, you cannot have physical fitness. Even for physical fitness and for mental well-being, at the end of the day, you need money, right? Because you need money to be able to pay for it. So I think, the first and the foremost thing, while everybody has the work pressures, and it's really work, I would say more than work, I would say the lifestyle pressures where money is concerned. I would say, I think the first thing is really to keep some focus and try to save at least 30 to 40%. I was reading in the newspaper the other day that most people retire with an EPF balance of 20,000 rupees. Okay, and it really, really shocked me as to how could people be retiring with 20,000 rupees in EPF, right? And that's because money today is being taken out all the time and utilized for very, very short-term needs, or for, to live a good life, for lifestyle expenses is what I would say. So I would really say that you really need to focus on saving, right? Focus on investing and really making your money work. And, with this changing macroeconomic environment that we're seeing, I think you must also realize that the chances of you working till 60 are going to be quite limited. I don't know about the opportunities, but I don't know how many people themselves want to actually even work till then, right? So whatever it is, at the end of the day, you need to be prepared to have a passive income by the time you're 45. And I think that's something for everybody to think about. Where are you in that journey right now?
I mean, that's such a powerful thing that you said, and such a stark, data point, right? 20,000 Indian rupees as PF balance by the time you retire. So what I'm getting from you, and if I double click on it a bit, is life happens, right? There are changes that will happen in new projects, new family events, or an unexpected expense could shift your balance with what you have. So starting immediately is very crucial. I think I really like that point of, what you bring in about at the age of 50, right? At 45, 50, what you would want to do. So Vijay, if I may ask you this question, and you've spoken about this earlier, how can mature men professionals, and I want to talk about men a bit here, reinvent themselves in a career pivot after 50?
Wow. Okay. And fantastic question. Thanks, Ankita. And it's a pleasure to be here. I think the first acknowledgement that men, women, or anyone for that matter, is that you need to know that knowledge is passé. To have knowledge or to know about something is something which is not relevant anymore. I think what is relevant in today's, because if you want to know anything, there's ChatGPT, right? There is something that you can. What is relevant today, Ankita, honestly, is about learning to learn and knowing. So if I want to build a car, ChatGPT may tell me how to build a car. But unless I have the experience in the background and to learn how to build a car, that what makes me different. And I think as men move towards and beyond 40, 45, I think slowly by slowly today, the world is slowly recognizing the fact that there is no such thing as fixed jobs anymore. You could think that you're a full-time employee, but next day you get a notice that your job is gone, right? So it's very, very important. I think it's a very fundamental view to make sure that learning continues to stay. So having that skill spread to be added to your individual profile becomes extremely important. And that cannot come overnight, Ankita. It's not like today I wake up and I say, I will learn a whole set of things. And I think that relates to what Mrin was also saying. You can't just start one day. It is a continuous process where you have to start slowly picking it up. So even if you're 25 today or 30 or 35, the my first point is to make sure that you stay on learning and you keep picking up skills as you go. And today, thankfully, with the advent of edtech, I think accessibility to self-improvement in terms of skills, in terms of social, in terms of soft skills are available at very low cost today. And therefore, one cannot put the blame saying, no, I didn't have the money for it. I think that's not something which somebody should do. I think number two is your ability to adapt to where it is. Now, we are possibly the only generation, I'm talking about 45-year-olds or more, we are possibly the only generation of folks which have seen a continuous transition of tech. From possibly seeing an 8-channel TV or maybe no TV at all to seeing internet and now AI, we are possibly very lucky to have seen all these tech transformations. But for some reason, while at a consumer level, we have been able to move from an 8-channel TV to Netflix, sometimes at our own personal career level, we have stopped doing that. And we have stopped adapting to those changes. So if there's been a tech change at the way we work, if there's been an enablement of software into the way we work, we have chosen to not change or resist that change. And I think that has become so. I think the second point would be is to not resist but adapt to the changes. And the changes are only becoming faster and faster. And I think that is going to become extremely critical for any man above 45 to stay relevant. And the third one, I think, which is extremely going to be critical for men who are crossing the path of 45, 50. And I'll go back to a little point what Ben mentioned. It's about passive income. It's also about passive roles. If someone has had 20, 25 years of experience in an area, they do have domain expertise. How can they leverage that domain expertise? Say, it could be an advisor to a startup in that space. It could be adding to an educational institution, be a faculty. So there are avenues today that someone with the experience and the domain knowledge can actually explore and try and get into. And hence, as passive income is important, those alternative roles and no organization will say no. Even if you're working with someone and you say you want to go back to a teacher class, nobody's going to say no, at least to the best of my knowledge. So I think those are some of the few things which I would say if men are today above the age of 45 and they see that this change is happening for us, these three things have to be kept at the back of the mind.
Thank you, Vijay, for sharing that. And I really loved what you mentioned about, keeping that focus on transferable skills, on your experience, leveraging what you have, and never focusing on age as a number, but looking at the experience that comes behind it. So that gives me a great segue to the next question, Mrin, which I have for you. How can one plan finances while considering an early retirement or a sabbatical?
All right. So, see, as far as sabbatical is concerned, well, you have to plan it a couple of years in advance because, you'll be supporting yourself during that period. And I think one thing you need to be cognizant of is the fact that it's going to set you back on your financial freedom journey, right? Because when you have a break and you're living off your expenses, it's certainly going to set you back. So, if you actually wanted to kind of retire at 45, you'll probably be working till 60. So I think you need to think through the sabbatical. Like from a financial perspective, I would just say that one would really need to think through if one can actually afford it or not, right? And it's not about just supporting yourself through those 5 years, but what is the compounding effect of not investing money for those 5 years that you're going to have on your overall wealth, right? Now, as far as early retirement is concerned, I think, one of the things which a lot of people don't do is take into account inflation, which is a silent killer. So there are lots of retirement planning calculators. There's a very simple retirement planning calculator available on internet. You can just go and type retirement planning calculator, and lots of them are going to open up. And I think, people are going to be truly shocked when they actually get to know what they need to save. And that's actually the starting point. So normally what I see is people feel that, okay, I'll save maybe 3 crores, and then they work backwards and divide it by number of years. But that's not the way it works, because you have inflation in the picture. So just to give you an idea, for a 35-year-old who's got around 1 lakh rupees of expenses, in order to retire at 50, they need to have a corpus of 8.5 crores, right? And, so essentially that's quite a bit. And actually, for most people, especially in tier one cities, when you actually work out your retirement corpus, it's going to be in 6 to 8 crores range. So, I think first is to really know what is the amount, right? A lot of times what I've seen is people are really shooting in the dark without knowing what is the actual amount that I'm working towards, right? And then you start working backwards. And one of the things that Vijay talked about, which was about adapting, right? So even now, people are not willing to adapt to the reality that this is what you need. And in order to get there, to get to that 8 crores number, right? You have to have a good exposure to equities, which is something, if you look at a household level in India today, people on an average have 6% in equity. So while there's a lot of noise about equity markets in the last 5 years, the actual allocation that goes into equities is very low. Again, when I look at NPS numbers, right, the average NPS uptake in corporate NPS is 11%. Right. And again, it's a great product for retirement, gives you equities, right? So I think very important to understand what is that goal that you're working quantify the goal. That's what I'm saying. That's number one. There are lots of free resources available online for you to be able to quantify your goal. Second thing that you really need to do is get in good amount of equity allocation. One of the ways, which is an employer provided benefit, is the NPS. I've actually written a lot of articles on NPS, on how it can actually be used to build a very, very good retirement corpus, right? So, I mean, these are the two things that I would say is very, very important for people to start. And the third thing that I want you to also remember is you need to start saving for retirement the day you start working, because every 5 years that you actually delay saving for retirement, the amount that you need to invest is going to double. So start early, have equity, and get your goal right.
Thank you for sharing that, Mrin. Indeed, it's a great insight in terms of how connecting what we talked about earlier, building a healthy relationship with finances. So I think for a lot of us, me included, the moment I started working, I got a credit card. The impulse was not to save, but to what can I buy? Like, can I get myself the new iPhone, things like that. But to build that, mindset. So even, start young. And then, of course, be very practical with your goals. Like if you don't have that kind of corpus saved, set aside for retirement, you cannot probably think about, retiring early. So you have to be very realistic about that. Brings me to a very good question for you, Vijay. What advice would you give to someone looking to transition out of full-time work? And can it sometime also lead to, feelings of being less than, and how should one address them?
Well, I think I cannot say this enough. I think this is something which has been my mantra for the last, say, a decade plus, and I've only gained and learned out of it, is the ability to stay networked. I think the first thing that you'll need to do is, let's say you're moving out of your role, or you're evaluating something to start, or you're just taking a break, irrespective of, at what stage you are. I think it's extremely, extremely important to be networking. And today, with the ambit of tech, this whole event, this whole webinar today, for example, there are so many events that happen in the city. There are so many little, for those who are in Bangalore, just walking through on a Sunday morning in Kaban Park will show you at least 8 different networking events, right? So I think today the importance of networking is something which will really get your next stage going right. You will know what's happening. Because sometimes when you are operating in a corporate world, you get consumed by the people around you and you only live that life and you don't know what's happening outside. And then that becomes number one. I think number two is as you transition into something new, it's very, very important to have a set routine or a set structure in place. And I think why this is important is because a lot of times, let's say you worked for 10 years in a company and you're transitioning out, you're trying something new, etc. You first want to say, no, I worked 10 years, I want to take a good 2 month, 3 month break. That's fair. I don't think so. That's wrong. But it's important to develop an artifact of sorts. How do you plan your day? What do you want to do? Who are you going to talk to? You build that routine in play. It sets a little bit of structure. Don't get, because if you tend to fall prey to being lazy in those few months, it will consume you faster than the 10 years you worked very hard for. And I think so that's number two. And I think number three is to explore conversations with, I'll give a little bit of an example, Ankita, if I may. There's this very interesting company in Bangalore. It's an American fund, actually. They have a presence in Bangalore. It's a company called South Park Commons. And they have a very interesting program called -1 to 0. Now, we all know what venture capitalists do. Venture capitalists listen to an idea and they give you money for it to start a business. But for that, they need to like the idea, they need to like the business, they need to like the model. South Park Commons has actually gone one step behind. And they've said, you're an employee, you're working somewhere, but in your head, you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to look at 5 different ideas. And your 5 different ideas are running by different thoughts, processes, etc. But you can't afford to leave your job because you got commitments. You got an EMI running, you got a. So, what South Park Commons does, and there are many firms like that, but I'm just giving the example of South Park, is they give you a weekend kind of an approach, they give you a timed approach where you can be with them, register with them, and they will, over the weekends and the time that they give you, get you to meet different leaders, different tech leaders, different finance leaders, etc., and put some structure into your 5 problem statements. And over a period of time, you will bring out 5 statements to, let's say, 1 or 2, which at that point of time, you are more confident about the startup opportunity that you want to build. And many a time, and I can tell you this, I've been investing in startups for a very long time. And I can tell you many of the founders that I tend to meet is that they're a little scared to leave their job, because if they leave their job, they may not get their income anymore. And as an investor, I'm a little scared to give them money, because what if they don't leave the job? Right. So it's always a little bit of an impasse. And platforms like these allow you to transition into something newer, faster, better. And I think in many ways it's very, very effective. Right. So I think knowing what your environment offers, knowing what networking events are there, how do you plan your day, and I think Min would know better, but how do you structure your financial path towards it? Do you have enough runway? I'm not a believer that you need to have a lot of runway. It's good to have. Sometimes risk will give you return. But I think it's important to know how much is your financial runway. Uh, I- if uh, if you haven't heard of platforms like Lovable, N89, N8N, and other AI application platforms, I would urge each one of you to download, let's say, a lovable.com and build your own personal financial dashboard. Today, to build an application is less than 10 minutes. So you can actually download it and just give a simple prompt. I would like to do a startup, or I would like to plan for my next journey, and I would like to know and manage my financial expenses and income. And Can you build me a dashboard for it? And in 10 minutes, you will have a full dashboard ready for you, which you can actually use it live as well. Right. So I think today the avenues are there to pick, learn, do, etc. So it's important that you have the mental support, the physical, the people that are around you. A personal case for me is that in 2000, after many years of working I took up a MBA course with INSEAD, and when I went to INSEAD, it opened my eyes to a lot more things. Now, yes, it was a decently paid course. It's not cheap, but there are other avenues today that you meet different people, you meet different structure, different people with different background, and you learn from them. So it's important to get all those things going, in my view, Ankita.
Thank you, Vijay, for sharing that. I think there's a lot to unpack in terms of what you spoke about, feelings of how do you bring that structure in your life? How do you, continue to network? How do you, have that, financial runway, but also allow yourself to kind of experiment, reinvent, look at these apps where you get to network with people. So really, like, it's a balance of, risk and, of course, being careful, right? So I also see it as a mind shift change in terms of um how you view your the working life that you've had, the titles that you've held, to moving to something more independent, more entrepreneurial. So thank you for sharing that, Vijay. Mrin, I'll call you again. There is, I think, still a very strong narrative around men needing to be, primary earners and providers. And I think Vishy also alluded to that, especially in, in the Indian culture, in the Indian household. How can one challenge their own internalized stigma and stereotypes and adopt a more gender inclusive perspective, especially when it comes to finances?
Well, I think we have to normalize managing finances as being equal responsibility, because typically what happens is that the male is expected to provide for the family financially, and the woman is expected to take care of household matters, or, bring up children and do the caregiving part of it, right? So I think we really need to get away from, the way that these responsibilities have been divided, to saying that it's equal responsibilities, and again, divide however you manage the other responsibilities. But I also believe that, I believe two things are very important. First of all, I believe that it's always our money when you're in a relationship. And I think both partners need to be contributing, um, maybe proportionate to their income, on expenses, investing, and whatever else you're using your money for, right? It cannot be so many cases that I have seen where one partner's income is used for investments, one is used for expenses. That's also not correct. Many cases I have seen where one partner's income, and I would say this, that one partner is the provider, the other partner thinks that, okay, my salary is not important, I can just spend it and stuff like that. So I think, it's very important that right from the beginning of the relationship, and even if you haven't done it till now, right, we're in every aspect that we're talking about, I think we're talking about adaptation and we're talking about change, right? So I think it's really important to, one, be extremely transparent. Finances is one topic, money is one topic where people also have a lot of secrets, or people don't want to share. Typically, men don't want to share, women don't want to ask, right? This is something that one is seen very, very often, because women feel, oh, I'm managing so many things. But I think, it's very important that both partners be aware of the finances. We've just had a case in one of us in our circle where, the person being from finance industry actually just passed away last week, very, very young at 45. And his wife, who used to be a banker earlier, doesn't even know what is the ATM password, right? And so, or doesn't even know where the investments are, right? So I think in India we are very, very backward where sharing about finances is concerned, and people do get in with a lot of preconceived notions in relationships as well. And I think just the way you're transparent about other aspects in your relationship, I think the same holds good for your finances. So be transparent about your loans, investments, look at it as our finances. And I would also say this, that it is okay, that you should absolutely expect that both partners are contributing, right? And I do not see why the load needs to be taken by one person alone, right? So talk about your goals. That's also very important, because again, in any relationship, even simple thing like retirement, one person might want to live in the hometown, one person might want to live in the city, or even like, let's say, buying a car, right? Somebody might want to buy a luxury car. Somebody will be like, given Bangalore's roads, let's just buy a small car, right? So I think it's very important to talk about how do you want to, what are the sort of expenses or lifestyle that you want to have? So that how do you want to spend? Second, how do you want to save? Where do you want to save? And third, how do you want to build financial preparedness, right? And divide responsibilities. So, but even if you divide responsibilities and you say, okay, you're better at investing and you take care of the investing, you still need to be aware. It cannot be, acha, this person is doing and you just don't know ki where the money is invested, or you don't know what's happening. So I would really say this, and I really believe that if we have normalized um, both sexes working and becoming engineers and doctors and whatever, I feel there's a very urgent need to normalize um, managing money together as well.
That's a great share, Mrin. Thank you so much. And that also brings me to the question that I have for you, Vijay. And I think today, thanks to social media, a lot of like extreme narrative around, masculinity and the red pill community, if I may, a lot of young men, men and young men are exposed to these harmful and extremist rhetorics, right? Perspectives around men's mental health. So, what do you think a conversation like this, what role can it play in addressing them?
No, absolutely. I think nothing is too small to be addressed. That cannot be addressed. It has to be addressed, and I think it's very important. Not just forums like these, but I think the importance of having coaches, the importance of having mentors, importance of having roundtables and conversations like these are extremely important, because everyone views the world in their perspective, and not everyone takes it in their own sense. Someone saying something, someone reading something could be two different perspectives. As a joke, I usually say when somebody goes through a tough time or try to as a joke, I usually say, then take a taxi from Bangalore airport to Outer Ring Road. You will realize that there is no worse problem. So, but as a joke, but what I meant is that I think it's important to have coaches and mentors in your life. And I think, and I do strongly believe the differentiation of the same too. There are career coaches available today. There are social coaches available today. There are mentors that will help you there today, whether it's in your organization or outside your organization. I think it's important to start identifying who can engage in conversations with you and possibly share experiences along with you. Because it's very important to be heard, and it's very important to also have a chance to speak about these issues. So I think that's number one. Number two is having some amount of what I would put structure to handling such, and not to take it too emotional always. Sometimes it's best to you hear them out, you read something, uh, talk to people that you care about. Like, you may have a partner, you may have a friend, you may have a network like this. I'm sure Srini is always available. So, there are people who you could engage with, and you could have conversations around it. I think there are people today, and one should not assume that they are alone. I think the last thing you should do is possibly think that ChatGPT is your coach. That's possibly the last thing you can do. But keeping these two, three things in mind, I think it's also important that you also don't react on something which is not pertinent at this point of time. I think it's important it will come to you. It will hit you in different forms. It may come to you in different ways. But it happens to everyone at different constructs. And it's important not to react. You need to first reflect, see what needs to be done, and take the necessary course of action if need be as such. So I think core to it is to ensure that you have a safe space to work with or talk to, and have that mentor and coach in your life. And it doesn't have to be one, it can be two, three as well.
Thanks, Vijay, for sharing that. I think it's what you spoke about. It's also important to, really have those coaches, have that safe space for bold conversations like this to happen. And also to look at it from a perspective of allyship, like being allies for each other, and not look at it like inclusion as a, a zero-sum game where we are pitting against like each other, pitted against each other for limited resources. I think I want to like, ask one last question. I think, Vishy, since we have you, maybe we'll ask you as well. What is the one piece of advice that you would share with our audience today around occupational and financial health? Vishy, maybe we'll start with you, then Mrin, then Vijay.
Well, yeah, I mean, money is not something which is going to, you're not never going to be satisfied with what you have, right? You always want to have more. So there is an element of greed in it. And sometimes it's also about how prudent you are with your money. You may have a lot of money, but not necessarily happy in life because you've made some bad choices, or you've made some choices where the money may not be safe. So I think it's about, again, I think I talked about control. So how much control do you have on the money that you have rather than how much money you have? And if you can address that, I think you will be a lot more at peace.
Thank you, Vishy, for sharing that. Indeed, money is never enough, but really being realistic and being at peace with yourself, I think that's really crucial. Mrin, what's your view on this?
Well, I would agree, and I would say that it's really important for everybody to financially future-proof themselves, because remember, financial freedom really means having time, being the master of your own time, and then doing whatever makes you happy. And I think for that, as Vishy said, having control by limiting loans, having structured financial plan, taking financial advice. It's very underrated in India to take financial advice. I would say, over any app that could build in 10 minutes or whatever it is. I would say, a financial advisor today can offer you much more hand holding for the changing needs that you might have. And of course, stay away from all of the trending stuff, whether it's influencers or it's cryptocurrency. And remember one thing, it's simple investments where you remain invested for the long term. That's actually going to grow your wealth.
Thank you, Mrin. Vijay?
Well, I think for me at work or outside of work is find purpose and the passion that you want to follow. It's not easy. If you're lucky, your work becomes your passion. But it may not always fall the case. But keep looking for that thing that you enjoy doing and keep following that. Otherwise, just stay humble and focused. For everything else, there is AI. So
Thank you, Vijay. Really summarizing it well. I think it's a very poignant point to think about. Being focused, having the purpose, but for everything else, there will be AI, there will be support, of course. Are there any questions on the chat? If not, I have a few that I received on WhatsApp today. Srini, I don't think there are any questions on the chat as of this moment. So I have my questions and I'm going to open it for all of you. Vijay, Mrin, Vishy, if you would like to answer this. The first question that I have is from somebody who started out with a lot of debt loan that they kind of inherited and had to struggle with, and they also had some bad relationship with their finances. They are about 38 years old now and still trying to put together, making some investments while they have an income. What advice would you have for them? Because for them, it feels like it's a constant battle against it's pulling you back. The debt is pulling you back. What advice would you have for them? Because it's starting to impact their mental health as well.
So, I would say that you'll have to go to a debt counselor, right? And get a debt consolidation or a repayment plan done, right? So you do have debt counselors who can help not only bring up a repayment plan, but if there is some very old outstanding debt, and they can help you renegotiate and everything as well. So I think that's really important. Secondly, of course, unfortunately, the person will have to be like living life very, very frugally to make up for the lost time, and possibly look at increasing risk in investments to also to make up for what they were not able to build up earlier.
And Ankita, if you want me to add a perspective, I think first I would say stop the bleeding, because most often when you have debt, to repay old debt, you borrow more. and it becomes like a vicious cycle. So one is stop new debt, cut unnecessary expenses, be more prudent. And then, yeah, as Min said, I think you have to make some plans, really look at assessing the situation and take some actions where you got to also generate a source of income. So I think sometimes you may have to also spend time working even more harder than before. That's practical.
You're on mute, Ankita.
Sorry, Vijay, your take on this.
I think the financial experts have spoken. I think the only thing that I could say is that just stay confident that you can focus on solving the problem. There are people who have taken bigger debts and still surviving. And if they can, so can you. So just stay the confidence route. And I think what Vishy and Mrin said is structure the solution and get help if need. But there is an answer. It cannot be that it's always the end of the road.
Srini, Shiv, if you allow me, there's one last question. I know we are almost at the hour. If we can, okay. This is a very interesting question. Yeah, okay, I see one question on chat. So Arsh asks how to start investing at 32 with no prior experience while building a healthy financial future. Great question, Arsh.
So I would first say that if you can take a learning course, I know that there are not too many learning courses on financial planning, but I think that's the real start. And just from a financial planning perspective, it's about budgeting. It's about first protecting yourself through insurance and then investing. So, there are a whole lot of investments that are available, but I would actually say that, very, very important to read and research first. There are some financial planning tools courses that are available. Well, I have a free vlog on YouTube that you could check out. It's actually meant for people who want to start their investment journey.
Yeah, Ankita, if you're expecting me to add, I think yeah, it's more about clarify your goals. Why are you investing? Are you investing it for your retirement or for buying a car or buying a home or maybe kids' education, whatever it is. So if you have listed down those priorities, I think you get to decide whether you're investing for the short, medium, or long term. And once you have made that decisions, I think there are a lot of tools that are available. I mean, investment options that are available. I think today the safest thing I would say is a SIP, which everybody recommends, where you set aside some amount of money which multiplies and grows. So yeah, I think first is about what goals do you have, and then make a plan, and then execute on that plan.
I think Vishy and Mrin have been bang on. The only thing I could say is know your risk and return ratios. Know exactly what return you want from what risk you want to take. So
Thank you for that, Vijay, Vishy, and Mrin. I see some more questions, but I'm not. Yeah, Kunal has a question, but I don't know if we have time. Srini, okay. Apart from SIPs and diverse portfolio and mutual funds, considering market trends and global events, what would be a smart long-term investment? Gold, bitcoins, anything else? That's an interesting question.
So again, Vishwanath talked about goal-based investing, which is of course very important. Again, it really depends upon what is your time frame. And I would certainly say that look at the NPS as an investment for retirement, the active equity choice in NPS. Cryptocurrency is not regulated in India, so I would not get into any unregulated investment. And as far as gold is concerned, I think Indian families are already very overexposed to gold. So, and even if you do look at gold, look at it through the ETF. But if you already have a large exposure there, then, as a family, then you don't need to get into it further.
Thank you, Mrin, so much for the. Yes,
I think
Vijay.
sorry, I'm just adding in. I think while she covered the financial part, I think don't forget to invest in yourself.
Indeed. Indeed, yes, Vijay, Mrin, thank you for sharing that, and Vishy, thank you for sharing those golden nuggets as well. I think this has been a great conversation even for me. I was asking those questions, but I know there are more questions, but of course, hopefully we'll be able to address them at a later time. Thank you so much for joining in. I think this has been a truly remarkable conversation, very honest, very intimate. For more sessions like this, please look at Men's Circle's webinars, upcoming webinars for Movember. Everybody is welcome. There's one coming up next Saturday, Thursday, and the other in the last Thursday of Movember. Please do sign up for those. Thank you once again, Srini, Shiv from the Men's Circle team, Mrin, Vijay, and of course Vishy from Randstad. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And Srini, if we have your permission, we'll then call it a day today.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Thank